I was dreaming when I wrote this, so sue me if I go too fast. So goes Prince's 1999, and whilst I can assure you I was wide awake writing this, I will be going a little faster this year. Barring the odd year, my shortlists are much shorter going forwards. Why? Well, at this specific point, the cusp of the new millennium, I have no idea. Maybe 99 is just an off year for releases, and I had other things going on. But for whatever reason, I had a hard time picking out a clear standout album this year. Distractions back then? Yeah, I had plenty of those. This was the year my girlfriend and I, after a few years of saving, finally got on the property ladder. So no more renting. We moved into our first home in April of this year. I enrolled on a Master's in Computer Science back at the University of East Anglia, a one-year conversion course. I knew a few people who'd already done this, and their positive experiences had been enough to, give me the push I needed to just go for it. So very busy from September of this year. A tough course, lots of casualties in the first few months, highly compressed with tons of background stuff to catch up on. And the band, yeah, I can't remember the exact timeline, but early 1999, I think, we had our first little reshuffle. Guitarist Glenn had been having a difficult time. Various pressures led to him leaving us. And given the pretty early stage we were still at, having a better idea of what we were doing, we decided to change name from Alnico to Oil Red O. Our lineup shifted to accommodate Will, drummer Charlie's brother, and ex-bandmate of our bass player Luke. They'd both been in the band Egg. Will moved behind the kit, Charlie switched up to guitar, and on we rocked. Our biggest, most notable gig of 1999, otherwise known as the one I can remember, was in December of that year. Wild Club were now back at the Norwich Arts Centre, and we were, I think, main support to Billy Mahoney, another instrumental four-piece recently signed to 2 Pure and promoting their album The Big Dig. Isolated Recollections, it was my first time playing at the Arts Centre, which, considering all the great bands I'd seen there, was a really big deal for me. A decent crowd, as I recall, and I think we went down pretty well, which, promoters out there, is what happens when you put bands with similar tastes and a musical kinship on the same bill. Either way, a year that had started out a little bumpy for us ended on a high with this gig. Right, music on with this year's Nearly records. I mentioned this band's mates, Mercury Rev, briefly last week, and this year I saw them both share a stage in Norwich, touring their biggest hits to date. Yeah, that was Mercury Rev headlining, and supporting them, the Flaming Lips, hot off the release of The Soft Bulletin. Enduring Memory, that would be Wayne Coyne's massive gong hits during Race for the Prize. They were still a great live act, a good record, an important one for them, but I'm firmly in the Flaming Lips 1.0 camp. I'll take Satellite Heart, Hit to Death, Ambulance any and every day. Okay, post-punk versus post-hardcore. Ding ding. From the UK, Prolapse and their final studio album. Well, so far, there are stirrings apparently. This is Ghosts of Dead Aeroplanes. Reference point, early Public Image Limited, Rough Trade era Fall, maybe a smattering of Loop's Psychedelic Drone. This album, further from their live sound than ever, definitely their most shapeless and drifting effort, in a good way. This one is unlikely to convert you if you're unconvinced, but fans, yeah, lap it up, it's good stuff. And from the US, Burning Airlines and their debut LP, Mission Control. The punctuation is important. Yeah, this is Jay Robbins' post-Jawbox baby, and as seamless a transition from that band's major label breakthroughs for Your Own Special Sweetheart, the self-titled follow-up, as you could ever hope for. More of that same tightly wound DC bustle, rubbery riffs cutting across offbeat rhythms, songs switching up and down in odd ways, nailing an anthemic payoff as they hit the 3-minute mark. Yeah, Jay Robbins is your man for mold-style melodic intent, pumped up with Fugazi dynamics and vault-fast trickery. Yeah, this one holds up just fine to these ears. And so, post-rock, being as how this was, in the ballpark of the music I was making myself, it's time to work up to this year's choice with 2 final, diametrically opposed examples that got a lot of play in 1999. First, from the neoclassical school, I've got Rachel's and Selenography. Jason Nobles, Rachel Grimes, Christian Fredrickson, they were the core. and this is probably my pick of their albums. Just a beautiful record and a textbook, a soundtrack for an imaginary movie recording. Piano, guitar, cello, viola, harpsichord, vibes even. The marvellous Kentucky Nocturne should get you going. And second up, look at White Balance. It's Future World by Trans Am, the perennial jokers in the post-rock pack. Personally, although I'm probably speaking for the rest of the band here, I reckon, I always found the lack of preciousness around Trans Am a real tonic, particularly set amongst all the earnest, serious post-rock artists of the day. And Future World is the band giving free rein to their prog synth 80s straight-to-video sci-fi side, and also the one which perfectly balances their pummeling minimal rock instincts against their smoother electronic side. You don't like vocoders? Avoid this album. They are everywhere. The title track is a career best, and the queasy cocaine computer is Daft Punk as a hardcore power trio. But between these two extremes, delicate chamber music and gacked up techno prog, sits an album which hit the mark exactly with regard to all the things I was looking for in my post-rock in 1999. A subtly technical side to it, a tasteful guitar masterclass, but executed with an endearingly offhand roughness. No sonic cathedrals, none of the signposted crescendos and head-nodding appreciation that was beginning to colour the scene, rendering everything monochrome and grainy and important. Less the sound of one hand clapping and more of one man picking. My choice for 1999 is Live from a Shark Cage by Papa M. About as low-key and unassuming an album as I've chosen so far in this series of videos. But having thought long and hard and been left a little cold by some of the 1999 albums I've revisited, this one fits with the time and place I was in perfectly. If Live from a Shark Cage is less showy, more subdued, an emphasis on shuffling time signatures and rolling picking rather than shred and attention-grabbing eruptions, then that is kind of the point, as is the entirely self-contained feel of it. Everything played, programmed, found, or sung here is David. The album's bookended by versions of Arundel, one short and a longer take to finish, a thick, tremoloed solo guitar piece, anchored throughout by a softly thumbed bass note. A gradually climbing melody circling back to a suspended motif, one of those threatening semitone intervals, the only hint of slint you'll find. And moods lift and melt and dispel at will from track to track. Roadrunner most strongly echoes the crisply defined tones of that debut Ariel M album. The drum programming here sounds like it's added post-guitar, neat little clicks and thumps adorning the gaps and stutters of Peyo's mazy melody line. It's really, really lovely. Plastic Energy Man mines similar territory with interesting squidgy filtered percussion providing the counterpoint this time. A feeling of pure kind of pulsing reverie. The nearly 10-minute long drunken spree settles into a ragga-esque Dawsey slither. Paddy tom hits and sitar buzz providing the bed for David to cut loose on the most animated and unsettling track on the album. This crowd of one, a collage of disparate answer phone messages splashed over an undulating smear of resonant guitar parts, little fragments of melody peeking through from time to time. Knocking the Casket and Pink Holler both bask in a porch-front folk feel. Banjo entering into the mix on each, the former foreboding and tree-shadowed, the latter coalescing into a loping, distracted hum. Conversely, Up North Kids is a warm, humid piece, the most straight-up song, I think, on the record. A pair of lazy guitars combining to approximate a woozy, pavement-esque pop. But nothing captures the feel of this record. A dude losing himself in guitar and finding ever more interesting ways to disentangle himself than I Am Not Lonely with Cricket. A 15-minute solo guitar piece, Peyo looping his own performance into little head-spinning Mebius tracts, new rhythms and confluences popping out left and right, the song collapsing into plucked harmonics before winding back down into that single, simple opening figure. It's spellbinding. And if I ever need reminding in future, yeah, the 1999 had its musical highs, then I know where to head. Yeah, straight back into the shark cage. I had to think long and hard about this one and really try and put myself back in my shoes to really arrive at this choice for this year. New territory for this series. These choices have always been fairly straightforward to come by, but this one did require a bit of work. Anyway, as usual, let me know down below what you might have picked for this year, and also maybe what you think of David Payhoe in all his incarnations. If my calculations are correct, we should be at about 10 minutes here, in which case, thanks for spending the last 10 minutes with me. Yeah, please think about giving this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed anything in it, and if you haven't yet subscribed, then why not do that right now? And that's where we part ways for now. I hope to see you again very soon on the channel. Please take care, and bye for now.